So in celebrity news, Kanye West supported a conservative and broke the internet. Let's go ahead and look at where that goes.
Superstar Kanye West setting off a social media firestorm after he praised conservative activist Candace Owens in a tweet. West told his followers that he, quote, loves the way Candace Owens thinks.
Well, just hours before.
Okay, so those of you who don't know Candace Owens, she's a YouTuber, an activist who who previously went by the name of Red Pill Black. Red Pill Black, referring to the fact that she used to be a Democrat, and for a lot of conservatives, the term red pill is that moment when you thought liberal your entire life, you thought Democratic your entire life, but then you start seeing a lot of the inconsistencies match up to the point that you're like, everything that I used to believe is wrong. Okay, there's that big red pill moment. So she goes by the term Red Pill Black, in that she used to be a Democrat who believed that the Democratic Party were the party for blacks, and now she has a very different mentality. She has a very different mentality on everything, believing now that liberal mentalities have actually been harmful for blacks for many years. She's not the only one, by the way. There's a number of very good books on the subject by Thomas Sewell, who's also a black academic who's been studying and writing in conservative politics for many years. He actually was even farther to the left than a Democrat. He was a registered Marxist before becoming a conservative, in a story very similar to Candace Owens herself. But anyway, Owens now attracts a lot of hate and a lot of ire from the black community, because let's just look at what she says.
That Candace took on Black Lives Matter protesters at an event at UCLA. Watch this.
What is happening right now in the black community, you're going to hear it in this room first. There's an ideological civil war happening. Black people that are focused on their past and shouting about slavery, and black people that are focused on their futures, okay? I can guarantee you what you're seeing happening is victim mentality versus victor mentality.
Now, whether you agree with her or not, Kanye really did. Kanye really appreciates the things that she says, and so he tweeted out a long series of tweets supporting Candace and her views, believing mostly that free thought in the black community is repressed, and that only those who follow a certain narrative are allowed to have opinions. So, I mean, this sort of returns to the last thing we were talking about. That said, conservative writer Ben Shapiro says that conservatives shouldn't be making too big a deal over this. Kanye said many things in that series of tweets that conservatives would be really happy with. Constantly bring up the past keeps you stuck there. We have freedom of speech, but not freedom of thought. And once again, celebrating Candace Owens. But what Shapiro brings up is that conservatives are so starved for somebody of influence, some popular celebrity, to feel free enough to actually say that they support some level of conservative thought, that they'll do it. You know, like we've seen in Hollywood that so many people in the entertainment industry will lose their careers if they come out as conservative. You know, it's happened to numerous people, and there's very few who can get away with having any sort of conservative outlook on life. But people in America, whether they're conservative or liberal, whether they're Republican, Democrat, no matter what ideology they have, if they see a celebrity have that, man, will they celebrate it. Man, they will just love it. If you saw my past interview on Easter, Chris Pratt, Chris Pratt. And so I get that. I understand that mentality. But with conservatives, we see so few celebrities come out in support of their ideals, this halo develops around them to where nothing they do can ever be wrong. And that's like that shouldn't be the way that we act. Like Kanye West has never ever shown consistent understanding of conservative ideas. He's so disattached from normal reality that he can't really understand nor communicate our ideas. Now, obviously, he can speak on issues dealing with blacks in America, and he seems to agree very much with what Candace Owens believes. Now that's great, and I'm glad that he's supporting Candace Owens, because Candace is really a brilliant mind, and I would wonder if she were given the time to work like that other people like Thomas Sowell have had, if she will have as much of an impact on conservatism as he has. Now, mind you, not everything that Sowell writes on is about black issues. He is a legitimate thought leader in conservatism, and I think that Owens could be too. But with Kanye is never going to be a thought leader in conservatism. He doesn't identify with the ideology. He identifies with the parts that Candace speaks on, and that's, there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of conservatives want to treat him as if he's a thought leader because he is an influential person. He's influential, but we need to remember a lot of things that he's said and done no conservative would be okay with. Let's just have fun and remember Yeezus. Do you remember Yeezus, where he compared himself to a particularly important person to most conservatives, literally casting himself as the Christ? Wow. Just wow. Oh yes, and this one, the apotheosis of Kanye. Yes, when Kanye literally became God. So I'm sorry, but like a lot of people who treat Kanye as this figure that is now he's now red pilled. He now understands what it's like to be conservative. He's speaking for conservatives. Like, no, there's a few issues that he agrees very much with on one very good conservative writer, and I'm glad that she's getting more promotion from this. But we shouldn't treat celebrities who say a few things that we like as if they are thought leaders of our ideology. We need to get better at understanding our own ideology so that we can communicate it. And I see this happening a lot more with the populists on our side. A lot of the populists are people who, they voted for Trump because there's legitimate suffering happening in a lot of parts of America that never get any attention. Dealing with the suffering of blacks, that was an issue that liberals really wanted to call attention to. And they made a big deal about saying that whites were a privileged group. However, when you look at census data, you'll see that there were 3 times as many poor whites as there were poor blacks. But most of them happened in rural parts of the country. So no one ever paid attention to them. All the news abandoned the rural areas. So you never saw the plight of the working poor, which outnumbered poor blacks by a margin of 3-1. And that showed that there was not an issue of racism as much as there was an issue of really bad governance, and that we were not doing what we needed to for our citizens. That's blacks and whites. That was everybody. Okay, but there was a lot of messaging that got screwed up there. Okay, populists really rose up on the right to say, no, we're poor, we're suffering, the economy isn't working for us. Everything that people are saying should be working isn't, and we need help. We need somebody to speak for us. And somehow, Donald Trump got to be that guy. Now, maybe this has a lot to do with having that conversation about celebrities speaking for you. Okay, Donald Trump did a very good job of listening. He actually listened to a lot of those people that no one in the media were paying attention to. And, well, look how that turned out for him. Now, but would we really want to look to a future with maybe Kanye West running for president in 2024? But I mean, this is the deal that a lot of people have, is that if a celebrity says something that you like, then you attribute this halo effect that everything they say is good. And populists are very vulnerable to that. Okay, that's why I'm extraordinarily happy that the election went the way it did, because a lot of people that are out here that are very close to my heart finally had somebody listening to them when they aren't very political people, and that's fine. But at some point, you need to get at least political enough to understand your values enough to fact check. It's like, hey, you're not, like, I do agree with some of the things you said, but you're not really representing me. And where this comes into question in a much bigger way, actually happened very recently with like the Roseanne show. Now, ever since the Roseanne show came back, it's been blowing up the ratings. Now, and part of that had to do with the fact that before we even saw the first episode, Roseanne came out hard against Jimmy Kimmel, talking about how he was actually actively doing something to destroy the country, and that, you know, she said the words. It was like, you know, whether you like whether you like Trump or not, nobody wants the nation to suffer. And he was like, no, I didn't. And she said, well, then shut up, shut up, with more colorful language. It's like, it called him, it put him in place. It really put him in his place in front of a lot of people. So people got excited about this Trump supporting hardcore working class woman, you know, getting some airwaves. But you know, there's problems with that too. You know, the show really goes out of their way to really hammer on Hillary, which you know, now you're allowed to. Ever since Brazil came out with her book saying that Hillary did all these terrible things and that she really bullied her way into power and didn't deserve anything, that totally destroyed Hillary's credibility, even within the Democratic Party, and they've been trying to distance themselves to it ever since. That now because of that, now everybody's allowed to in media say bad things about Clinton. But Roseanne on the show is no different. It also celebrates certain aspects of Trump supporter that the show sort of wants people to talk about, and it wants people to talk about. But Ben Shapiro, in a piece a few weeks ago, so back in March, he was talking about this element that Roseanne was trying to cast Trump supporters as this thing that really they're not. And let's look at what he says later on in the article. Okay, and what Shapiro says in his piece about Roseanne is that there's something else going on in Roseanne that should disturb conservatives. The redefinition of Trump supporters as blue-collar leftists rather than conservatives. Roseanne's character is pro-gay marriage, pro-abortion, feminist, and pro-transgender. And the implication is that she is a good person because of those views. The real difference between Trump voters and Hillary voters are economic in nature, not cultural. Now, that's really important. That's really important because what he does is he makes the very good case that by all those definitions, there should be no difference between Roseanne's character or just Trump, the Trump supporters that are being displayed on the show. There's no difference between them and your run-of-the-mill Bernie supporter. Now, that's an issue in itself because like Roseanne doesn't actually represent virtually any Trump supporters I know, but she's being made to look that way so that Trump supporters can feel like there's somebody representing them. Now, this is an interesting way to transform a culture into something that you like. And Shapiro actually talks about that too. This was the original concept of the Roseanne character. I interviewed Marcy Carsey. Really? That's her name? Marcy Carsey? Anyway, I interviewed Marcy Carsey, the woman behind the original Roseanne, for my book Primetime Propaganda. Carsey called herself a Democrat who grew up in an Eisenhower Republican house and said that she understood Republicans, but that the show was written about working class women, a working class heroine to represent the difficult lives that so many millions of women were leading. Roseanne featured one of television's earliest same-sex weddings, the title character considering abortion, the title character asking her virgin daughter to use birth control, her daughter Darlene using pot, speed, and acid, and the title character routinely and vulgarly describing genitalia. Okay, so from its earlier rendition, from the show's earlier run, we could see that it had propagandistic elements meant to show working class people and pull them further to the left. So the early Roseanne was not ever showing a respectful depiction of Republican values or of conservative values. You won't see anywhere in media back then or even now to where a conservative is viewed in any sort of positive light. The last time we saw this was a show that many people, myself included, really enjoyed. That was Last Man Standing. Like, we saw Last Man Standing, and it was completely eviscerated for no reason. In spite of being one of the most popular shows on television, it got pulled, and no one ever found out why. It was pretty clear. It was pretty clear why, that its views were just not acceptable to the networks that put it out, in spite of the fact that it showed a clear demand. That was the last time any of us saw a respectful depiction of conservative values, and even then, Tim Allen admitted that his writers were even liberal. So even with that, we saw the whole show through the lens of liberal values. With one of the main characters, his whole purpose was there to challenge Allen and to give some sort of argument. Whereas if you were to see the conservative counterpart to Last Man Standing son-in-law, to see a person like that in most liberal shows, you'd never see it. You'd never see a person whose purpose is to challenge the views of the main character, especially if they're a liberal character. But we lost Last Man Standing. It's gone now for no good reason. But we do have Roseanne. Roseanne is now this character who's showing that a person is good in spite of voting for Trump if they still have many leftist views, especially culturally. Okay, and the thing that makes a Trump voter has nothing to do with their culture. It has only to do with their economics, their economic situation. Okay, that's what defines a Trump supporter, and that's not good, because a lot of people are going to be watching this and thinking, oh, this person represents me, when she really doesn't. It's trying to push the population more to the left, trying to redefine what it means to be a Trump supporter, to be a conservative, into something more like this character that Roseanne represents, and it's not conservative. Now, going back to Kanye, he's a guy that says many things that conservatives can agree with. That's good. That's good. There's not a lot of celebrities that do, but he himself has never given off the impression that he is well-founded in conservative thought, in conservative theory. At best, he aligns with one issue that we have. And conservatives, like with Roseanne, like with other celebrities, shouldn't be making all these celebrities, whenever they finally say one thing, into this halo effect character that this represents us. Now, I know the obvious implication is Donald Trump, but let's look at that. Donald Trump got to be where he is today because he said many of the things that we all agreed with. But let's face facts. Donald Trump hasn't really had a very strong history of following conservative views. Now, the thing is, as president, he's doing a lot of things that conservatives are happy with. A few things we're not. And I'm not even talking about his behavior outside of being president. Okay, but he got into office because he had something that all the other Republican candidates who were strong conservative candidates didn't. And that's that he didn't need the media. He had his own following, which could push out whatever message he wanted. Now, because the media has had this very liberal bias for many years, they've filtered out conservatives who push the envelope too far culturally. Okay, they're allowed to speak on economic issues. They're allowed to give their economic views. But if you push the envelope too far as a cultural conservative, you're not going to get any representation out there by the media. Well, Donald Trump didn't need the media. He had his own. So when he listened to the people, when he listened to actual people speaking about their culture and speaking about their needs and speaking about things that the media wasn't covering, well, it worked. Okay, it didn't work because he was a good conservative. It worked because he had control of his own voice. Now, other celebrities like Kanye, same story. And so I'm actually a little terrified that if conservatives or Trump supporting populists or many of the people out there who don't thoroughly hold people account to the values that underlie conservatism, don't check these celebrities who say things they like, then we're going to see Kanye West running for president in 2024. Okay, so that's something that we need to do. We need to stop looking at celebrities that say a few things that we like and then call them people who are thought leaders in our movement. Okay, Donald Trump is not a thought leader in conservatism. He's doing a lot of things that we like right now, but if you think that Donald Trump has issues representing conservatives, wait till Kanye. And if that doesn't scare you, wait till Roseanne.